let's talk about the Umbrella Academy, shall we? Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let me move the mic a little closer. Let's talk. Let's talk. Uh, um. So the Umbrella Academy. We're talking about the show here. I really like the show. It's actually one of my favorite shows that I've watched recently. And I think it's fantastic storytelling. It's really engaging, great characters, that sort of thing. But it does have its problems. And one of its biggest problems, I think, is the way it treats the character of Vanya Hargreaves. And by the way, this contains spoilers. Now, I want to make this clear. I like the character of Vanya, and I think in a lot of ways she's well written. And, Elliot Page does an incredible job acting as Vanya. He's just a really good actor. And I think, in general, I like Vanya. She's likable enough. But my big problem with Vanya and a lot of the show's storytelling is the way the show treats her so much like she's always inherently the good guy when there's a lot more moral ambiguity going on with her character. Now, I want to make it clear they do acknowledge that she does some pretty bad things and she's morally ambiguous, but the show always is too, I don't know, forgiving of her. Now, I want to remind everyone this is just my interpretation of it. This is my personal subjective what I got from watching the show. Now, maybe someone else will watch it and they'll get something else and they'll get a different sort of feel from it. But I always felt like they just were too forgiving of Vanya and they were always like, "Oh, she's one of the good guys officially, so it's okay. We can forgive her super quick." But to explain, let me go through sort of some summaries of her different arcs and sort of the ones where I kind of have a problem with. I also want to make it clear. I want to make this clear. I am aware Elliot Page is a trans man and he goes by he, him pronouns, but his character, Vanya, as of now at least, identifies as female, goes by she, hers. So when I'm talking about the character, I'll be saying she, her, hers. That is in no way, me trying to misgender Elliot Page, the actor himself. But anyway, let's get into this. So, starting off with her relationship with Leonard Peabody. What a name, by the way. Leonard Peabody. That's such an Umbrella Academy name. They all have such Umbrella Academy names. So it starts out, she meets this guy who is kind of the first person ever to treat her like a human being, like to sympathize with her and to just be nice and forgiving and that sort of thing. And he seems great. I always kind of got a bad vibe from him from the start, which is probably the intention. Um, but he seems like kind of the perfect guy for her. And they get along great, but then we slowly realize this Peabody guy is actually not okay kind of in the head. He's got a lot of anger and he's trying to manipulate Vanya and he's got all these ulterior motives, and it's sad because we see how Vanya has been treated her entire life, and there's finally someone who actually seems to sympathize with her and relate with her and treat her right. But then we know that he's just doing that, purposely just doing that for an ulterior motive. And that's really a well done in such a frustratingly sad part of the story when we learn that about him. And I remember thinking, boy, this guy kind of gives me bad vibes. Hope he doesn't turn out to be bad and like, because he's treating her like well. But then that's the whole point. And then we slowly get her building up this anger throughout that first season. She's always kind of had it within her, that frustration with her family, with her father, and it's just growing and growing more and more, and she's sort of coming into her own a little more, but also not being herself entirely because she's just so angry. And then when she's confronted by her sister, the rumor, that's where things start to get a little off for me. It was still all right, but this is kind of where the problems begin. When she's confronted by her sister and she gets so angry that she slices her sister's throat and very nearly kills her. And I thought at the end of that episode that the rumor had died. And then, and obviously afterwards, she has this terrible remorse and guilt, and she's sitting in the tub being all sad because she thinks she just either killed her sister or very nearly did. And it's a little odd, I think, actually, that she sliced her sister's throat with like the force. I know it's not the force, but whatever. With her magic. Um, because I don't know, she just seems like a much better person than that. Like, you have to like be kind of bad to do that to someone, even if that person was like kind of neglectful to you in childhood, kind of a bully, and now she's like trying to be better. Like, that's still, you don't go around killing people. Like, I want to put that out there. This might be a controversial stance for maybe writers of the Umbrella Academy, but you don't go around just killing people because you're kind of mad at them and maybe they did something bad to you. Like, you don't, okay? Like, I mean, does anybody disagree with that? I mean, I know, like, there's murderers and stuff. Obviously, they disagree with that, but, like, you're not, like, you're not supposed to kill. You're not supposed to kill people, dude. Like, you're not. And obviously, she feels remorse and upset, and like it was in the heat of the moment. But like, I don't know. It just felt unearned. Like we didn't know that Vanya had that within her. She seemed like she'd never done anything like that. She was always kind of a nice person, and then all of a sudden, she has this horrible. She does a horrible thing to someone, her sister, and it's just shocking. And that felt a little off, but I can forgive that. The show, it's in its first season, and it's still gonna be good, even if it has that, and it still was good actually. But it's not, that doesn't ruin the show for me. What I'm trying to say, it doesn't ruin Vanya's story, and I don't think Vanya's story was ever fully ruined, but it definitely made me not like it as much with some of the choices they made. So let's continue and talk about some of those choices. So she doesn't kill her sister. She almost kills her sister and takes away her voice for a long time. Ruins her sister's life for a couple of years or so, or a year or so. I don't even remember. And that's just kind of weird how that happens all of a sudden out of the blue. And then they trap her into that room because they realize how dangerous she is. Luther does anyway, and some of the others are like, "Hey, Luther, that you should let her out. That's probably just gonna make her more angry. And she's pretty powerful, so she might like break out and like do bad stuff. We should probably learn from our mistakes and be better to her instead of worse." And Luther's like, "No, I gotta protect my family, bro. I gotta protect my family from her." So he puts her in, he puts her in the thing, and then she slowly starts to lose it and have kind of hallucinations and go crazy until she turns into the white violin and goes on a literally murderous rampage. Now, this one's a little tricky for me because part of me, like, I realized that she wasn't entirely herself. And she was going kind of crazy. It was kind of like she's going through a shining moment. But at the same time, I feel like the show didn't entirely tell us that she was completely crazy. I mean, obviously she was hallucinating, but they didn't fully say, like, she's not really herself anymore. She's kind of just blanked because, I don't know, maybe they did, but for me, it just felt weird. Like, they didn't entirely tell us if she was gone completely crazy or if she was still kind of herself. We never got a clear answer on that. And then she actually does kill someone purposefully, fully, knowing she's doing it, she kills Pogo, who why she gotta kill? I mean, I get that, like, he did, like, he was kind of, he did made some choices that, like, maybe he shouldn't have, but, like, you're not supposed to kill people. You're not supposed to just. He's like your uncle. That's like if Batman, like, found out that Alfred lied to him about one thing and then just killed Alfred. Like, you don't do that. Like, if they had explained a little better that she was not herself, that she was like Jack in The Shining, kind of, I feel like I could have forgiven that moment a little more. But I just felt like they didn't make it clear. Maybe it was more clear to other people, but for me, it was just shocking and, like, why would she do that? Is she really that mad at Pogo? He's so innocent. Like, he did a bad thing, but, like, bruh, it's Pogo. Anyway, moving on. So that's it for season 1. In summary of season 1, I just kind of thought, well, they kind of went a little shocky with her anger, destroying the whole world, kind of, like, it felt kind of unearned. Like, her character didn't seem like she'd do those things, but it was a good show, especially the later episodes. Actually, I liked more, even though that's sort of when the problems start. And then we move on to season 2, which in my opinion is the better season, but where the problems continue with the way Vanya is treated. Now, she's found with amnesia, and she gets to know Sissy and a man, what the heck was his name? I don't even remember. I'm not going to look it up. I don't care. Sissy and her husband and their child, Harlan, and they kind of she's an adult, but they sort of adopt her, and she stays and she helps the family and sort of becomes part of the family and gets really close to Sissy, and they're good friends. And then she starts having an affair with Sissy, and that would have been all fine and good if they had shown beforehand that the husband was not a good person. Because up until that point, at least, unless I missed some sort of subtext little thing that showed the dad that was like a bad person, unless I missed something like that, they showed him to just be a decent, honest guy before Sissy and her started having this affair. And that would be fine if, like, they treated it like more like neither of them have any guilt about it, and later we learn it's because the husband is a bad person. But in that moment, it's like, what? Huh? They're doing like, Vanya's like doing this with no kind of qualms about it, and all she's so far seen of that husband is to just be a decent person. So that's odd. And that's how they could have fixed it if they had just shown first that the husband was a bad, abusive person. That would have shown why these things were happening. It didn't make sense, because it just seemed like, what? Oh, he seems like a nice enough guy. What? Why? And so that was weird. Overall, I think after that point, the show handled that relationship situation well enough. I enjoyed their relationship and Vanya's relationship with that family. It was handled pretty well, but that was weird how they handled that, kind of. And then finally, we get to her remembering what she did to Pogo and to her sister in the world. And then she's like, oh, I was so bad. I'm a bad person. And then her brother Ben is just like, oh, it's okay. You felt bad, so it's okay. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess it's okay. Everything's forgiven. And there's just a weird lack of moral conflict. Even though she has all that remorse, there's just like no long forgiving period. She killed their like uncle person. Like, and cut her sister's throat, and then they're just like, oh, she said sorry, so it's okay. It just doesn't feel realistic for someone in a family to do that. And then there's just a short little period, and then they're like, hey guys, let's be nice to her now, and now everything's fine. Like, that's not how humans work. And a lot of this stuff would be fine if the show treated her more, if the show didn't treat her so kindly. Like, she's inherently always this good guy, and they explored the moral ambiguity and the ramifications of her horrible, horrible actions. And there can be forgiveness, but it feels unearned when it's like a couple minutes and then her whole family's like, well, she did kill like our uncle, father figure person. She did almost kill our sister, and then she kind of accidentally destroyed the whole world. But now everything's fine. She feels bad about it. So like now, yeah, bygones are bygones. Like, maybe that's right for them to think that, but no human being ever forgives others for something like that quickly. And it's just unrealistic, and all these bad things just feel so unexplained and sudden and unearned a lot of the times, and the forgiveness is too quick, and the show kind of treats her too much like she's the good guy and everything's forgiven. She made a little oopsie, she accidentally murdered someone, but now everything's okay. So I don't know. That's sort of a problem I had watching the 2 seasons of that show. But who knows? Maybe if I watch it again, I'm going to pick up on more stuff. However, if I got that just from watching the show once, then there are some problems with that show. If you have to watch it twice to pick up on some other stuff, then maybe you would have forgiven that. There's some problems there to be had, at least in my subjective opinion. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I just asked you keep it civil. I don't want like people who are super angry at me because it's just fiction. It's just a show. It doesn't really matter. It's not actual world issues. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Vanya Hargreaves. All right. Thanks for watching that sort of rambly, ranty analysis of Vanya. If you enjoyed this video, drop it a like and consider subscribing if you have not already. Hit the notifications if you want to be notified of when I post. I make a lot of these videos about the arts, mostly about books and stuff, but other things as well, and some poetry. And yeah, thanks for watching.